Hello, 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 Yazoo City. I hope that everyone is having a wonderful Wednesday. Happy hump day. I know that if you're like me, you're excited for our next guest coming to the platform today. We are so excited to have him join us. Many of you all already know Hubert Owens, especially you sports buff. All of you people who follow football, SEC football, and all of that, you know who he is. But I know him mostly from growing up in Yazoo City because he was in the class of 1976 and I was in 77. And of course, there's no way you can live in Yazoo City and not know the Owens family. They're very prominent, well-known, kind family, very immersed in the community activities. His dad was, I just recently found out, he was a referee, a well-known referee, and actually had the opportunity to referee a professional baseball game, which I knew nothing about because I wasn't in the mix like that in Yazoo City. But his mom was my home economics teacher. I definitely remember Ms. Owens because I thought she was like so cute. She had the cute little round face like mine, and she kind of reminded me of Mrs. Claus, Santa Claus' wife, because she had this cute little round face and always a beautiful smile and just such a pretty woman. And not saying that I'm pretty, but she gave me pride in my round, chubby face. But in any case, she birthed a wonderful young man, and I like to call him the golden boy of Yazoo City because he was that, and he would not like me saying that, but he was, I would consider a quintessential golden boy. So I want to bring to the stage today, to the platform today, Mr. Hubert Owens, and hopefully we will not be having any technical difficulties today. So we're going to sit down and talk to Hubert about his life. He has just overcome many challenges to get where he is today. He had to make some detours off of his dreams of becoming an NFL player. And he went on to the next level of being the first African-American SEC official. So you never know what God has in store for you. When he asks you to put down one dream, he doesn't replace it with something mediocre. He normally have something that's far more impacting for life than what we could ever dream of. So I am just looking forward to finally sitting down, talking to Hubert, and just finding out about his journey to where he ended up being an SEC coach, just his life in general, becoming the golden boy and going to, I think it's Valley State, and becoming a star athlete there as well, and ended up SEC referee. So I'm going to bring Hubert to the stage without any further ado. And I don't want to forget to unmute him. Hi,
Hubert. Hey, Renita, how are you?
Great. I hope I didn't embarrass you with that intro.
No, you didn't embarrass me. That was I need to hire you to do all my intros.
Oh yes, yeah. I could have said.
But I do want to correct one fact, though. I wasn't the first African American in the SEC,
okay,
but I was the first African American to really lead a crew into the SEC championship.
Okay.
And there were two other black referees that wore the white cap before me.
Okay.
So I want to make sure we.
Thank you for that, because I am not knowledgeable in sports at all, so I'm sure I'll be saying
in any event, though, I'm really proud of whatever it was. I'm proud of it. So.
Well, welcome to the platform. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Good. Well, like I said, I know you're a grade ahead of me. Right. And class of 76. As a matter of fact, I was thinking we should have a class reunion because no one has done anything in a long time, and we should really have a joint class reunion because the classes are getting smaller. A
That's
lot
true.
of people are leaving here.
Yes, every year the classes seem to shrink. So
yeah. So we might as well start having 76, 77. That was like the bicentennial year, right? 76, 77.
Absolutely.
And we might bring on 78 and 79. Just for measure.
We want to be as inclusive as possible.
We definitely want to do that.
Yes.
But I wanted to talk to you today. Just, I was so excited to hear about your career, and I've been watching you over the years, or reading. If I wasn't watching, magazine I was reading and hearing, with all the accomplishments that you made. And I always knew that you were a star athlete and all of that. So I wanted to unpack getting to know you better, as much as you want to tell us about your family.
Okay.
I had John McCoy on here, and we
Right.
talked about Miss Owens, not Miss Owens, Miss McCoy.
Yeah.
And I realized Miss McCoy is a wonderful teacher. Everyone knew her. She was available for her students with the choir. I never knew that, John. They kind of resented that a little bit with not having their mom. How he said they had to have, where other kids would go home from school, they had to stay there for choir practice.
Right.
And eat their meals. And you never think about that when you're a student and not the parent of a child of a person who's in a community like both of your parents were.
Right.
They were immersed in the community. Absolutely. I remember vaguely, Hubert, your dad wearing those striped shirts, but I never knew what that meant. I would see him, but I don't know what I thought that was. I never knew.
Yeah, well, that was, he started officiating, I guess, in the late 50s and through the 60s and early 70s. And so that's where I got, introduced to the avocation of officiating, and of course grew up around he and his officiating buddies and picked up a lot of the nuances of being an official. And I always knew one day that once my playing days were over and, that there was, those dreams were gone, that I wanted to fall back on officiating because of him.
Right. And apparently he also he was a referee for a professional game, right?
That's new to me. That's new to me. So what that article was about was in it was in 1968. So it was when Grambling went up to New York to play Morgan State in Yankee Stadium. So it's actually a college game that was held in a professional venue.
Okay, right, I see. Right. But for us, that was big time.
Yeah, it was big time, and that was during the time back when HBCUs, at the beginning, that was the beginning of HBCUs taking the show on the road, if you will. They started. That was the start of what they call classic games. Right now, you hear right now. Jackson State and Tennessee State. Tennessee State were playing the Southern Heritage Classic. You have the Bayou Classic. You have all the different classics that attract major crowds. But that was a way to get HBCUs notoriety in a time when there wasn't Facebook and there wasn't the social media that we have today. Eddie Robinson and the group down at Grambling said, okay, in order for us to, be seen and recruit players and students, we have to take our brand to the public. And so that was the birth of, your classic football game. And so he had the privilege of officiating. It was the Whitney Young Classic in Yankee Stadium.
Wow.
In front of, as you see, 60,000, Grambling and Morgan State.
Okay. So it was like basically Yankee Stadium. Still, that was
Yankee
a big
Stadium,
deal.
Yes. The old Yankee Stadium, yes. Yeah,
so we got it mixed up with, he was officiating Yankees at the Yankee Stadium.
No. I can see how that could get crossed up.
Yes, because that's what I actually thought. But still, that's a big deal. I mean, that's 60,000 people.
Yeah,
that's
and we're talking 1968. So
right, and then he officiated in Yazoo City locally, right?
Yes, all in the surrounding areas, Yazoo City, Greenwood, Greenville, Vicksburg, and high school, and it was also a SWAC official in the 60s and 70s as well. He was an umpire. In the SWAC.
And you went with him.
I went with him to all his games. Worked Alcorn, Jackson, Mississippi Valley, Grambling, Southern, all the SWAC schools back then, and so officiating was embedded in me. I grew up around it, and so it was just a natural fit that after all of my playing days were over, that I would.
Let me ask you this: so now that it just dawned on me, you're out there and you're seeing all these techniques, and you're seeing how he's making these calls. You're seeing what people are getting upset about. You're seeing what people can get away with.
Yes.
So how did you incorporate that in your playing sports, Hubert, as the athlete?
Well, first of all, as that, the benefit was I knew the rules. I probably knew the rules better than most athletes that I was competing against. So I knew what was a foul, what was not a foul. I knew what I could and couldn't get away with because I knew the rules pretty well as an
That's
athlete.
what
That
I
was an
figured.
advantage of knowing that. Yeah.
So did you take advantage of any of that knowledge?
Well, the advantage came in when you had to make decisions about penalties and on behalf of the team. If you want to accept a penalty, decline the penalty, those are getting into some techniques, some details of the rules. But every penalty that's thrown, the team doesn't necessarily have to accept the penalty. They can decline the penalty and then maybe get the football, or they can make whatever decision is that more advantageous to them. So from that respect, I knew that helped me quite a bit from that respect.
Okay, so we're gonna go back and unpack your athletic years at Yazoo City High School.
Okay.
But I want to talk about your darling mom.
Okay, absolutely.
We were just talking about. She taught me home economics.
Right.
And I broke so many needles in that class. I think she told me not to code anymore. I'm the only person that probably got kicked out of home economics.
Oh, wow.
I was just not doing it right.
That's not as bad as getting kicked out of PE, so that's okay.
Who got kicked out of PE? Did you?
I didn't, but I know some people who did.
Yeah, I know people that fail PE, which is really, that's like failing lunch. Who fails PE? As a matter of fact, my son got a bad grade in PE, and he was an athlete, so he was just lazy. Kids today don't want to do any running. They don't want to do any of the, workout, the conditioning. They just want to get that Nike contract. These athletes, they don't have the mentality of like a Kobe Bryant today.
Right.
Not too many of them, because even Shaq would admit that he was lazy. He didn't do all he could have done as an athlete,
That's true. That's true.
But it's a different world today. But your mom was so sweet. I just have fond memories of her standing at the door in between each class when we'd be doing the exchanges. Was she from Yazoo City? Your parents, were they both from
Yazoo? From Yazoo County. Mom grew up, her family was from out in Holly Bluff. And they moved to town. But they were both from Yazoo City. Yeah.
Wow. And did they meet in college?
That's a good question. I think they met growing up, going to school together in high school and, as kids.
So they were high school sweethearts?
I don't know exactly if they were high school sweethearts, but I think they started their relationship, in school before college. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, because, she graduated and went to Alcorn, and Daddy went to Rust. And so they knew each other, but he went to Rust for a year and then he got drafted in the Army. But Mama went on and finished her degree at Alcorn and was fortunate enough to be Miss Alcorn, I think in 1943 or something. I have to go back and look at the record.
Wow, I didn't know that. Yeah, I would have. We might have to do a part 2 with you. I need to see those pictures. That was Miss Alcorn. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah, she was. So
that's amazing.
And then, of course, she started her teaching career, I think, in Brookhaven, as a matter of fact. Yeah.
Wow.
For a year before she got to Yazoo City, and finished her career there teaching home economics. And I understand where John was coming from, because you're right. At the end of school, we had to stay around if there were after school activities, or during that time there were a lot of adult sewing classes. And that went on in after school in the evenings. And, so in that time, you kind of had, if your parents were teachers, you kind of had to share your parents with other students, and other people in the community. And so I kind of understand that, but, we made it work. It was a good experience, good learning experience.
Right.
Where'd you get that picture from?
Look at the young Hubert and your beautiful sister. What was her name? Your sister's name?
Thelma Simone.
Yes, Thelma Owens. I remember seeing pictures of her in the newspaper. She's a beautiful girl, really pretty.
This picture was at her senior recital at Jackson State. She was a music major.
Oh, wow.
And she had to do a senior piano recital. So that's all 4 of us on stage after her recital was over. So, did
she work with Mrs. McCoy? Was she ever?
Absolutely. Yep. She was? No doubt. Mrs. McCoy was her mentor. She really worked closely with Ms. McCoy, as of course Ms. McCoy did with all of her music students. But she was in Ms. McCoy's choir, piano lessons, the whole 9 yards. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, she probably owes her musical career to Mrs. McCoy.
Wow.
No doubt.
Jackson State. So she went to my alma mater, Jackson State.
Yeah, she went to Jackson. And we kind of had a unique family in the sense that Thelma went to Jackson, my mom went to Alcorn, my dad did a year at Rust, and I went to Valley. So we had the SWAC covered.
You sure did.
There were no legacies in our family.
You sure did.
We all paved our own way. We created our own pathway when it came to college.
Were there any like competitions during the football season, basketball?
No, it wasn't because we were. I guess our ages were far enough apart that we were pulling for each other at different time periods. So there was no competition. You know, we wanted everybody to do well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, do well you did, Hubert. You did that. Because let's
Thank you.
talk about Hubert in Yazoo City High School. I mean, my gosh. Mr. Yazoo High School. You know what? You're the closest thing to Tom Brady I know in black skin.
Now
Mr.
you're giving me
Gorgeous
too
George.
much credit.
He was the golden boy. I mean, let's just
that goes way back there.
Uh-huh.
But that's interesting though. What happened during that time when this picture was taken? It was, you know, we had integrated the school system in 1970, but during this time in the who's who space, you know, the school system required that if Mr. Yazoo High was African American, black, then Ms. Yazoo High had to be white. And the next year, it was reversed to try to keep the balance in there. I don't know if a lot of people remember that or know that, and I don't know how long that went until they did away with that. But that was part of the process that went on. That was the policies that were made in place to kind of help usher integration in and make it a smooth transition. But that was a unique time period. But that was interesting. Cindy Edwards, I remember Cindy.
They wanted to just keep it fair, huh?
They tried to keep it fair. So if so it was all of the different who's who categories. They were always broken up, and then the next year it went opposite. If like I said earlier, if Mr. Yazoo High was African American, then next year he had to be white. You know.
Well, what about the most athletic?
Well,
you were racking up all the awards that year.
That was because I did multiple sports, played baseball, football, and ran track, and so.
Yeah, and then
was fortunate enough to be pretty decent in all of them, thanks to the older kids in the neighborhood that we had to compete against, and Coach Boston absolutely had a big hand in that.
Yeah, here you are on the football team.
Yep, that's at Mississippi Valley. I think we were playing Alcorn that year, and we had just come off the field. The defense had just come off the field, but yeah, that's actually down at Alcorn State in the old stadium under the hill. So, yeah. And that's totally misleading. That's totally misleading. That was a basketball. I was not a good basketball player.
God.
So for all those out there watching,
kidding me.
I was not a good basketball player. This was my senior year. And the way that happened was Coach Gates, I know everybody remember Coach Andrew Gates. I was actually a manager on the basketball team. And during the Christmas holidays, he had a practice schedule. And one day we went to practice during the holidays, and all of the players didn't show up. Enough players didn't show up for him to scrimmage, so he might have had 8 players that showed up. So he wanted to have a full practice. And so he made myself and Donald Boston dress out as trainers. We were managers. And so after that practice, he told me if I wanted to still be a part of the team, I had to put a uniform on. And I could not play basketball, but he wanted me to be on the team as a player.
And as a matter of fact,
I could not play basketball. So I don't want anybody out there to think that I was a basketball player. I was not a good basketball player at all.
And
I think my first game, he put me in the middle of the first quarter. And I think the middle of the second quarter, and by the middle of the third quarter, I had fouled out. So.
And okay, here's the track star.
Yeah, I was a pretty decent hurdler. Thanks to Coach Boston again. Yeah.
Coach Boston was the coach for that.
Yeah, he coached track and football, and it was just a jewel in the community, absolutely, and a good role model. He knew about all types of athletics and sports, and he actually literally taught me to hurdle and actually did pretty well in high school as a hurdler.
You know, what I remember so much, I was really close to Coach Boston. He would let me come sit up on stage with him and study
And
hall.
study hard, yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's what I just have fond memories of, just having conversations with him. I would just talk him to death.
Right,
And
right.
he's
And
like,
he was always
yeah,
available to talk and share stories about life and give
yeah,
advice and and always had a calm demeanor, Coach Bob. You never really saw him upset. He never raised his voice. Just, I mean, I don't know. They don't make him like Coach Boston anymore.
no, he was a wonderful man, a wonderful role model. And somehow he knew all of my business uh, from the weekend. And he would be talking to me about that Paul Henderson. He'd heard this that happened and that did happen. I'm like, oh my God, who's
Yeah,
telling you all this? And he would just
right,
get on me about,
right.
something that he heard that happened. And I'm like, who's
Absolutely. Well,
telling you?
Yazoo City. I mean, if nobody said anything, pretty much everybody knew anything, whether they said it or not. I mean, you couldn't hide much in Yazoo City.
Exactly. We
Yeah,
couldn't, but he would just, lecture me, and he cared. It's because he cared. And if he
that's
heard
true.
anything.
Speaking of Coach Boston, there he is.
Yes, there's Coach Boston. Now, I heard he was your godfather. Was he?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Him and my
Wow.
dad were really best friends, and we would just growing up. Donald and his son and myself were the same age. Donald Ball, y'all probably remember Duck. We called him Duck. But I mean,
Mm-hmm.
even 5 or 6 years old, we'd always grew up. They would take us to football games down in Alcorn Valley. We go fishing all the time. So I mean, he was the second father, and I owe a lot of what I was able to accomplish. Um, in my latter years to Coach Boston, staying there with me, supporting me, regardless of what it was that I was facing, and particularly
Right.
after my father passed, and Mama and everybody. So they became he and Mrs. Boston became like automatic second parents. I'm probably one of the most blessed child that came out of this, because I had two sets of parents, and when my parents
Wow.
died at an early age, they were already there, and so we owe a lot to the Boston family, no doubt about that.
Well, that's a blessing. And
Yes,
where is
yes.
Donald Boston now?
I think
I haven't
Donald is
seen
out
him
in Texas.
in
I
years.
think he's in Arlington.
In
Donald is
Arlington,
working with a
Texas.
firm as an engineer. He's doing well. He's doing
Mm-hmm.
well. Yeah.
That's great to hear. So,
We
and
communicate
also,
from time to time.
so, and who wasn't, what was it? He was the only child?
No, he had two sisters, Denise and Sheila.
Okay. Oh, right.
Yeah.
Sheila Boston. When you said
Sheila, yeah.
that name, yes, I
Yeah.
definitely
Right.
remember that name. Sheila Boston. Quite
Yeah.
a popular person.
Yeah.
So you went on to Valley State, Hubert.
Yeah.
First year. What position did you play?
I
You're
was
actually
I went in as a defensive back. I was a cornerback.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So um, I was fortunate enough to they Valley offered me an athletic scholarship, and I went
Mm-hmm.
in there in 1976 and ended up having a pretty good career at Valley. Played defensive back, wore number 45. You saw the picture earlier, and so was fortunate enough to make all conference teams in I think it was 79 and 80.
Mm-hmm.
And
Were you there when Jerry Rice was there?
no, unfortunately, Jerry came a year after I actually graduated in 1981 in May, and
Mm-hmm.
Jerry came on campus in June of 81. I had a chance to meet him a couple of times, but we never didn't play against Jerry. Jerry came right behind me. Jerry
Okay.
and
Who was
Willie Totten and that group that really, really launched Valley on the map.
so it wasn't Jerry Rice era that launched Valley
Well, it
State.
was our era that launched it. It was Jerry Rice's era that took it to the next level. How about that?
Uh-huh. Okay. I'll take that. I'll
Yeah,
take
we,
that.
we had some real good athletes that during our time frame that actually went on to play professionally. You got the Parnell Dickinsons and Sam Washingtons and Melvin Morgans, and I could go on and on. They were household names in the Delta, and
Mm-hmm.
we were always competitive in the SWAC. We didn't during that time didn't beat Jackson State, but we beat everybody else. And I hate to
Nobody
say
beats
that.
Jackson
I
State
hate to say that, but it is what it
back
is.
then.
But
Back
yeah,
then.
we had good solid football teams, and so when Jerry came in and Coach Cooley came in my senior year, they really took it to the next level. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but we're all proud of all the players and coaches that came through Valley, and and we're gonna turn it around. We're kind of on a downturn right now and have been down for a few years, but we're looking forward to getting some things turned around and being competitive again in all sports.
So, what do you think about these professional football players like Deion Sanders
Mm-hmm.
coming to HBCUs, which have really done a lot for putting HBCUs on the map, and
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and having young talents that would normally go to these white Ivy League schools like Ole Miss or Mississippi State, or now they're
Yeah.
coming to HBCUs. They're
Well,
leaving there.
yeah, and I think it's a good thing. I think it's good that Deion and I think Eddie George up at Tennessee is taking over the head coaching job at Tennessee State. It's going to bring notoriety that we haven't had in quite a while. And with the platforms that they have and what they've accomplished as players, of course, they are in better positions to recruit athletes than coaches have been in recent years. I mean, because they've been there, they've done it, and these athletes have seen them do it. And so naturally they'll gravitate to them. Hopefully it'll increase the TV exposure because, most of the athletes go to these major universities because they can be seen on TV. And the other thing, it'll improve upon other facilities. I mean, everything in college football, it's really about the money. You have to have the funds to have successful programs. You have to have facilities, quality facilities, dormitories, training tables, practice fields, equipment, the whole 9 yards. And without money, it's just not possible. But these guys coming back, they have relationships that they've developed, as professional players. They have commercial relationships, sponsorships. And so the money should start to flow back into some of those universities. And hopefully they can, that'll funnel down to some of the other universities that don't have a Deion as a coach.
Right.
I know that the conference as a whole is working towards, improving some things with TV contracts and revenue sharing type opportunities. So, but I mean, those they're all good things. But as usual, I mean, you start out, at the honeymoon and everything is all peachy cream, and but at the bottom line is, you still have to win and you still have to produce. But I do think it's a very good thing. I'm looking forward to big things from Deion at Jackson and Eddie at Tennessee State, and looking for those things to funnel down to other HBCUs, throughout the country.
Wow.
I also think that the things that happen socially in the country have added to that too. Now, you see athletes now understanding what happened. It's unfortunate that the Eddie George situation occurred, and there's so many other social injustices that are going on in the country. But I think those things have been brought to the forefront, and I think now some of our star African-American athletes that are in high school, are being awakened to what's really going on, and so they want to show that they can make it, at HBCUs as well, and that's always been the case. When you look back to the Willie Browns and the Buck Buchanans and athletes, that have come through Jackson State, I mean, you name them. They've always been successful in the pros, but they didn't have the top line.
The visibility. Schools weren't able to bring the spotlight to them because there's so many, like you said, talent.
Yeah, I mean, Walter Payton, Robert Brazile, those guys. We've always had top athletes that have been successful in the pros, and so that it's coming full circle. That's the way I look at it. It's coming full circle.
And you were honored at Valley State. So after your illustrious career at Yazoo City High School as being a Golden Boy, you went to Valley State and did well there, and they honored you. Can you talk about this?
Yeah, sure. They
and what an honor it is.
Absolutely. So I was inducted into the Valley State Athletic Hall of Fame in 2018 for my accomplishments on the football field at Valley, and that was a great honor. It was really totally shocking and surprising, but
why was it shocking and surprising? You were great at Valley State.
Well, when you're put in the same category with a Jerry Rice, or Willie Totten, or Parnell Dickinson, or Sam Washington, it's just it's really a truly an honor. I mean, we played with those guys, with some of them, but it's always an honor to be recognized by your peers as worthy of an honor like that. And so I was really pleased and elated to join that group of athletes. There you go. There's Mrs. Boston in the middle.
And your beautiful daughters.
Yes,
and they were there for your special day.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's Justin and Simone. Justin is in the blue. That's my oldest daughter. And Simone is in the black. And of course, Mrs. Boston is in the middle. And of course, Mrs. Boston was an Alcorn graduate. And so she never failed to represent with her purple and gold. We noticed that. Nonetheless, she was there and supportive. And I was absolutely really happy that they were all there in support of me on that evening.
That is so great. And also, let me see who else I have here. I have done my work on you, Hubert.
Yeah, you have. You've gone back and way back and dug up some stuff.
I have done my work on you, my dear.
Yes, you have.
And I want to acknowledge these. Gloria. And it took me forever to know that you and Gloria was cousins, but I didn't know my classmate was your cousin.
Oh, yeah, Carl. That's right. Carl Bunch and Elaine, that's for sure. Yeah, we all grew up together, and we've remained close even as adults and grown-ups, and watch each other grow and support each other through life. And so, yeah, I was glad that they were there.
That you had, Coach Boston. I know how much he meant to you, and to have his wife be there for you for this moment. Yeah. That's like priceless.
Right.
To have that. And I wanted to, and then Coach Boston and your parents were there in spirit, right? In
spirit, absolutely. And my sister.
They were there in spirit, and your sister, your beautiful sister. Yeah. But I wanted to ask you about this little fella. Let me find him, because I heard that he said something very profound to you. When they replied to him, someone asked him, did he want to be the president of the university one day?
Well,
and what did he say?
I think it was Dr. Hudson who asked him, well, would he come to Valley one day and play football like his granddad?
Oh, yeah, right.
And I think Aiden's reply, according to Elaine, and she's the historian of the family, but according to Elaine, Aiden said, I'm going to come be the president like you. So that was too funny.
That's wisdom. I heard that. Don't be limiting me.
But he's a joy to have around, and he's 9 years old now and playing Little League baseball, and so we're glad to have Aiden around, and he's all boy. Yeah, I mean, he's all boy. No doubt about it.
Oh boy, I wonder where he's got the Leach genes in him and the Owens. I mean, what can he be, right?
Yeah, he certainly has a foundation. So we just have to keep cultivating him and keeping him headed in the right direction.
He definitely does that. Yeah. And speaking of legacy, you have two beautiful daughters. Yes. And I had some other items, but when you talk about, legacy, and I look at what your dad passed on to you and what an impact he had in your life. But I said, what I want to ask Hubert about has nothing to do with football, but it has everything to do with what happened to that darn ice cream parlor you guys had. What happened to that darn ice cream parlor?
Well,
we spent a lot of days in that ice cream parlor.
Yeah, well, buildings kind of get old, and you just have to kind of sometimes move on from them. But we've torn the building that the ice cream parlor was in. We torn it down. But that was actually a detached garage that Daddy took advantage of, back in the 60s, and created the malt shop, as everybody remembers. Yeah, and that was just him taking an opportunity and trying to provide a service to the community. And was during the time when we couldn't all we couldn't go everywhere in Yazoo City. That's
true. That's true.
Ice cream place across town that the white kids could go to at Hasty Tasty, and we couldn't go, and so Daddy created that the malt shop, and we sold ice cream cones and chili dogs and donuts and sodas, and that was kind of a hangout spots for the kids in the community, and so that was one of the staples in the community for a while.
It really was. Especially I went to elementary school across from there.
Oh,
that was like in the 60s, and
Yep. Yeah,
And we spent a
that's for
lot of
sure.
time in there.
That's
And that's
before
where you got
integration.
your nickname, right? That's why they start calling you Kareem.
Yeah, that's where I got my nickname from. That's for sure. and I really hated that nickname. I was a little boy. I just did not like to be called ice cream. And I think, if I remember correctly, and those who are listening, I think Frank Robinson, who was in the band, started calling me Little Ice Cream, and it stuck.
Oh my God,
Unfortunately, we lost Frank here recently, I don't know, 2 years or so ago. But Frank was always in the band, played the bass drum, and was just a showman. And he went on to have a great career as a showman with some of the blues artists in and around the international blues artists in and around the country. But Frank named me Little Ice Cream. They would call me Daddy Big Ice Cream, and he called me Little Ice Cream. And I started to catch on, and I was, as a little boy, I didn't like it. I would go home and tell Mom I didn't like it. And finally, but the more I pushed back, the worse it got. And so once I stopped pushing back on it and accepted it, and here we go. And it's still with me at 63 years old. I'm still ice cream. I'm still cream.
Oh my God. Yeah. So you just embraced that name.
I embraced it and moved on with it.
I just remember you had swag with it, so it looked good. It didn't look bad.
Well, I didn't have swag early on with it. Trust me, there was no swag early on with it.
It looked like you were like, okay, that's ice, smooth as cream, smooth. That's what we got out of it.
Yeah.
But that's funny. But I missed that place, and that is a childhood memory for me.
Yeah.
Being in there.
That's true. That's true.
So living in Georgia now, right? You live in Georgia,
right.
And you're active in the community there, and outside of refereeing, what other sectors of business have you?
Okay, so I'm glad you asked that. So when I moved to Georgia, I started working with the Atlanta public school system. I worked there for about a year in there, what's called a diversity program. From there, I went to the city of Atlanta, where I spent about 21 years working with the city of Atlanta in its Office of Contract Compliance. And so most of my life, but my professional career has been dealing with implementing programs that try to level the playing field for African American and female-owned businesses, particularly on city-sponsored contracts. So the city of Atlanta has an ordinance that says that basically says they want at least 30 to 35% of all the construction dollars that they spend to funnel down to African American, female, Hispanic-owned firms. And so I was fortunate enough to become the director of that office that headed up that program and made sure that minority businesses, had an opportunity to grow in the Atlanta market. So it's a pretty rewarding opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very important, especially in today's political climate,
Right. And of course, the city of Atlanta being as prevalent as they were during the civil rights movements. Of course, Dr. King, being born here in Atlanta, and of course, you have Representative John Lewis, the late John Lewis. It was always expected that the city of Atlanta would be a leader in growing minority and women-owned businesses and having programs that were, if you will, cutting-edge programs that make sure that minorities could grow and that businesses could thrive. And so I was very fortunate to be a part of that process. The program was actually started back by former Mayor Maynard Jackson when the city of Atlanta started doing that major construction at the airport. And he basically said, we're not going to build the airport unless some Black people earn some money, work on those contracts out there. And so that was the birth of the program. We've gone through a series of challenges from people individuals who don't look like us, who don't believe that programs are needed. They think that, because, they just think that everybody's on a level playing field. They don't believe in affirmative action. But, when you get a 250-year head start, there's no way that we can compete unless we have programs that try to level the playing field. And so we were always on alert with being aware that there were people out there that did not agree with the programs. And after 25 or 30 years, you don't make up a 200-year head start. Wow. So we weathered legal challenges from various individuals that said these type affirmative action programs were unconstitutional, and so we continue to have to tweak the programs to meet the the letter of the law, if you will.
Right, and also who's
decisions and so forth.
Who's creating the letter of the law?
Well, the Supreme Court, the district courts, and so every time there's a challenge, then there's a ruling that says, well, you need to go back. So let's just say, right now, it started out saying, well, you're African American, you're disadvantaged, you've been put behind the eight ball. Well, after that went on for a while, some people decide, well, that's not right. It's not constitutional to give people contracts based on their race and gender. Well, that's what's been going on for 200 years before, right? But then, so they started filing lawsuits, and then the courts will come back and say, well, just because you're African American doesn't mean you're disadvantaged. So now you have to go out and do studies and do data, collect data, and prove by the data that there is a need for the programs. And I'm probably getting too deep in the weeds a little bit more.
No, that's okay, because we're battling critical race theory and all this fit in there.
Yeah, but it's like it's always an ongoing struggle, and as we continue to make progress, then there's a lawsuit that says, well, this is wrong with it, and then you have to go up to the court system, and the courts will say, well, in order for this to continue to be legal, here's what you have to do to continue to have programs that benefit people that we know need the help, So it's an ongoing battle. It never ends. And but I was very proud to head up that program, to carry on the legacy of great leaders like Maynard Jackson and, Andrew Young, who was the mayor of Atlanta, Shirley Franklin, Bill Campbell, John Lewis, who was working from the House of Representatives side of the table. And even in Mississippi, like people like Benny Thompson, who's been a long-term representative, and of course, Diane Delaware is heading up Yazoo City now, the mayor of Yazoo City. And,
yes.
Kwame and Jackson, and it's just so it continues to be a fight. It continues to be a battle. But I was just really, really fortunate to land in the spot that I landed in, and to carry on, to have a small part of carrying on the legacy that so many great leaders started, including Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So,
well, you have been equipped for this all of your life, because you have definitely been the golden child. You definitely have, and I got one more little scary picture for you here. I had to pop that one in. This is the Hubert I know, y'all.
Yeah, that's my high school portrait. I'll tell you a funny story about that. To Simone, when she was very little, maybe 2 or 3, and you see TV and you see pictures of clowns and stuff with the big bow tie. So she saw my picture and pointed and said, "Clown, clown."
Oh my God!
But that's a high school portrait, 1976. So.
Had that afro together, okay?
Yeah, well, it took about 15 minutes in the mirror, patting and kicking and patting and spraying afro sheen and so.
Oh gosh!
I won't take my cap off for the public right now. I don't want to run anybody off the interview. It's different now. So. And
so recently, I think I'm gonna surprise you with this one. Because I'm like in real time. When I do this, I have real time information. Okay.
Okay. All right.
So you got to tell me, what were you doing here?
Okay, so that was recently.
Recently as when? Yesterday?
I won't say. Okay. But I had a chance to visit the new stadium in Las Vegas.
That's awesome.
So, of course, the legacy that Willie Brown left with the Oakland Raiders, Los Angeles Raiders, then Oakland Raiders, and now Las Vegas Raiders is prominent all throughout that stadium. And I was just so very proud to have an opportunity in the past to visit the stadium and see and see the stadium and see all the great memories of the Raiders of past, and particularly Willie. And so I had to have the tour guide. So I hung back, and every time there was something like this that reflected back on Willie, she had to take the picture for me. I had to take that picture in front of everything that I saw that represented Willie. And I just hate that he is not here to see that. structure, one that he had such a great hand on in building.
And here's a picture of you and Willie and Coach Boston.
Coach
Manhattan.
Leeds.
This is the old statesman. These are the gentlemen. I mean, this is
Yeah,
a historic moment here with all of you guys on this picture.
Absolutely, that's some history there. That goes way back. That's some legacy there with Manhattan, Willie Robinson Sr., like you said, Coach Boston, Waddell, Willie, myself. You know, that's one that I have up on my wall. I had it framed.
What event was this?
This was, I think, there was a Fellowship of Christian Athletes event. Willie Brown, that was the guest speaker that night, was out at the McCoy Elementary Auditorium, and so Willie was speaking there. I actually spoke the year before Willie did as a guest speaker there, but this was at the McCoy Elementary doing that program.
Oh, well,
and Willie and Coach Leach and Willie Brown and then Willie Robinson, Manhattan, Coach Leach, they were all teammates. And Coach Boston was their head coach in high school. So you got Coach Boston with basically two generations of athletes in that picture.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Manhattan, Waddell, and Willie were classmates, and they were teammates.
That's amazing.
And then I came along later, but Coach Boston coached us all and had a great influence in all of our lives.
And Hubert, I interviewed Willie Morris, son, who did this wonderful documentary on Yazoo City. He revealed a lot of history and facts about Yazoo City that, as a child, I didn't know what was going on. 1969, all of these transitions was happening in Yazoo City. We were integrating the schools, desegregation, St. Francis was closing, Yazoo High School was being merged over here. I mean, it was just such a transitional period. But I was too young to know what was happening around me. So I find it fascinating to have found out that once the Indy Taylor High was dissolved, all of its trophies and awards and everything was in the attic of the Yazoo City High School for decades.
No doubt.
Indy Taylor, it's like Indy Taylor Black Panthers was just wiped out. The whole history.
The whole history. I mean, we totally lost our identity from a school district and school system. I mean, the school colors were gone, the mascots were gone. All of the social growth activities that we had before integration went away for a while. Carnation Ball, class night, baccalaureate services, all of that went away. And while there were some positives, I guess, to integration, there were some negatives as well.
For our community, was a lot of negatives.
Just went away. I mean, we didn't learn the social things that the kids who graduated in 68 and prior, I mean, they were taught 24/7, and we were too, but we just lost so much of our identity in that integration process that, as a matter of fact, that was one of the reasons that I chose to go to an HBCU, because I felt that I missed out on so much of the social education that the kids before me got with the carnation balls, with the proms. We didn't have prom. If you remember that, we didn't have prom.
We didn't.
All of those types of and all of those, while they were viewed as social events, they were all learning events. I mean, you learned how to understand what went on at a carnation ball, at a formal affair, in a prom and those types of things. All those were learning experiences that we didn't have when we got to high school.
Right.
I grew up wanting to play for Coach Boston and be a Panther, and wear the maroon and white, all that was stripped away, and it wasn't our decision, but so be that as it may. So when I got ready to go to college, I'm saying I'm going back to an HBCU so I can still participate in, the coronation balls and class night, baccalaureates, and those type of social learning events that were stripped away. I mean, even the homecoming parades and stuff were. It's just, homecoming was a week-long affair,
right?
And then so, but all those things that were stripped away, it was my motivation. Now, everybody have their own reasons for going where they want to go. That was one of the motivations that I had to go to an HBCU.
And about the Black Panther situation, just knowing that those relics were there, I had talked to a few people, and what we really want to do is try to create an exhibit in the Yazoo City Triangle Museum, find and recuperate as many of those relics from from Indy Taylor High, and create an exhibition
Right.
to pay homage that this exists. There was once an Indy Taylor
Right.
High and a Black Panther. So
Yeah.
we're trying to get together. Maybe you would want to join in and help with,
Oh yeah, for sure, for
because
sure,
we
for
got to
sure.
do this.
Right.
We
Right.
can restore
Absolutely.
that
And I think
history.
it needs to be done so that we can, I mean, so generations can still understand,
Exactly.
what the fabric of Yazoo City was, how it was made up, and how we became what we are today. I mean, it was a great place to live. And we have a lot of history, and we have a lot of people who come through Yazoo City, not only athletes,
Mm-hmm.
but doctors, professionals
Yes.
that have done great things that started
Mm-hmm.
right there at Yazoo City Training School. See, before you talked about Taylor, it was called Yazoo City Training School.
Exactly.
It was number 2.
Number two.
We started at Lamar Street Kindergarten, Ann Brooks Kindergarten, and
I
came through
went to Miss
Norfolk
Brooks
Elementary and all
kindergarten.
of that.
Yes.
I mean, we have a story to tell. I mean, and it's not just those who've been visible on TV, i.e. the referee, but it goes so much deeper than that.
Exactly.
So I do think we have to do something to try and preserve it.
I appreciate you for coming on the platform and doing this, because, like you said, you have been on television. Everybody know the oodly doodly doodly dot it,
Right, right.
But
And I see,
but
I'm
the
actually looking
essence of
up
you is Yazoo City in your heart, and
in
just
the
by
heart.
what you just
Absolutely.
said
Yeah, yeah.
says that.
You talk about, I see a post that talked about the Afro-American Sons and Daughters Hospital. You talk about the Espys, Mike Espy out of there,
Yeah.
who's done great things. I know the Huddleston, TJ Huddleston, the Huddleston family that created the hospital, and the Afro-American Sons and Daughters. And probably one of the only hospitals at the time that was operated and owned by minorities for minorities.
Yeah,
So
for the whole state of Mississippi, right?
in the whole state of Mississippi.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So
wow. But that is the dream. The vision is to get as many of Indy Taylor High School, starting with the yearbooks, because you can go to museums and you can see where exhibits have been set in honor of different people, like the induction. Everybody have a wall with their pictures, with their things. And even if we could blow up just a big picture of Indy Taylor High football team or the basketball team on the walls, and some trophies there. And I'm just thinking about Black Panther. When that movie came out, I was like, wait a minute. I've heard we were Black Panthers. Indy Taylor High was Black Panthers. Now I see why they would pick Panthers, because all Black school. A Black Panther is a very symbolic animal in Africa, you know? So, and I'm like, I grew up saying the mighty, mighty Panthers, we are the Panthers. I just hear that song in my head because I was a kid and it was the mighty, mighty Panthers,
Right.
And it was just, and I look at Yazoo City, I looked at Indy Taylor High School book a lot growing up, like you said you did. You have that affection for it, and that's something you look forward to being a part of, because I'm seeing these beautiful teenage Black people looking good. I mean, you remember the Ellis that played basketball?
Yeah.
William Ellis' brother.
William.
Yeah, he was like so gorgeous, and I could see him. They had pictures of him and his crew walking through the hallway, the basketball players, and I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, for sure.
So I would love to be able to get as much of that possible to raise enough money. Maybe we could have some kind of gala, for Indy Taylor High and raise money. And I talked to the person who's running the Triangle. His sister's name is Carolyn Gerbeau. They went to Manchester, but her brother is over the Triangle Museum, and he's totally open to working with us to establish an exhibit there.
Well, you certainly have created a platform to make that happen.
Yeah.
And to at least get it started. I mean, because I'm looking at some of the comments and some of the people who are logged in, and so, I mean, you've certainly done great with with what you're doing at the platform that you've established. And,
thank you.
Maybe that's something that we can pursue.
Yeah, our kids need to know their history, because if you're looking at right now, just think about this: critical race theory. People are having a fit. about critical race theory. And the only thing critical race theory is telling the damn truth. Stop whitewashing history. And if you don't control your own narrative, you're going to let somebody else control your own narrative. And they're going to hurt you and tell you that you're not in pain. So we've got to take, since we have this opportunity now, thank God that Willie Morris's son continued in his father's footstep of revisiting, and this truth came out. You know, his dad wrote about it and got sort of ostracized. He took it a little further and videotaped it and did did the documentary. So now a lot of truth is exposed. No one can hide behind that history and say it didn't exist. And the people that got mad about him telling the truth were the ones who would be a part of the critical race theory, anti-critical race theory, pro-critical race theory, because they don't want the history told.
Right.
So now we have the opportunity to not only get our history told, but we can go back and find the relics and continue our story and tell that there were great athletes at this school.
Right.
I mean, to think that these...
So that history can live on.
Yeah. You know, they won awards. They were champions. And then to have someone take that and just put it away and it never happened?
Yes, that's true.
That's ridiculous.
True.
That's crazy.
But that was one of the downsides of integration. We lost all of that. We lost that identity. Whatever came along with it, it was gone,
And then to have,
except in the memories of those who lived it, still know about it. Yes.
Oral history has to be passed on, right?
Yeah, so that's absolutely right. Yeah.
And then I think about, when I heard Waddell Leach talk about, just being demoted to a lesser position after you've coached, championship teams, and now just everybody having to be second-class citizens in the new location.
In the new location, exactly right. And I admire them so much for having the foresight to say, well, if I walk away, what's going to happen? To the Paul Hendersons and to the Hubert Owens and to the Larry McGee's and the Grand Funks of the world, and those black athletes who needed to be nurtured through that process. So they could have raised hell and could have walked away and probably gone to colleges and had better coaching opportunities and everything, but they didn't. They stayed there and they sacrificed and to make things better. I mean, Coach Boston was probably one of the great, and Coach Leach. I mean, two of the greatest coaches, ever. Eventually Coach Leach got the head baseball coaching job, and we actually won a couple of championships under him. But with Coach Leach, a couple of high school baseball championships, but they could have gone on to Jackson State and all. I'm sure they had opportunities, but they knew that they needed to be help nurture through that period.
They humbled themselves.
So they didn't care about the title.
Exactly. And they humbled themselves to the condition for the greater cause.
Right.
For the greater cause. But God is so good and such a redeemer that Waddell Leach had to be demoted, and he took that, but he became the first black mayor of Yazoo City.
Yazoo, absolutely.
The same city that wouldn't allow him to be where he should have been professionally in his academic. God gave him a greater position.
That's true.
So we have to look at that and say, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's amazing. But I'm looking forward to getting that in place and just visualizing that event and seeing it come to happen to fruition. And hopefully some of the people are still alive to see that,
yes,
or some of the athletes, because both SWAC and people like that, they passed on,
Yeah, right. That's true.
And I know that.
And we're, they were kind of the building blocks for where we are today.
Yeah, they are. So speaking of legacies, we're going to end here, but your legacy is still going, and you have two beautiful daughters.
Yes.
Beautiful daughters, and you have your grandson.
Yeah, my grandson.
How cute is that?
That's cool. That was one of the early pictures that he might have been two, So I kind of dressed him up in my official uniform and made sure we took a picture so he could reflect back on that.
And when I looked at that, I could not help but to look at these two, you and your dad.
Right.
and you and your grandson, and the two legacies with the, you know,
Yeah.
and that's your
That's it.
legacy, Hubert.
That's it. That's my legacy. That's
You
it.
know, and I know that you're going to do as well with him. Look at him. You're going to do as well with him as your dad did with you.
Absolutely. I'm going to do my absolute very best for sure.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for coming on today.
Well, thank you for having
Even
me.
though
Absolutely.
I'm like, I was going to kill you last night because you didn't come on to do your tech check. And I was like, you got,
well,
everybody knows that come on here. You got to do your tech check. I said, you didn't do your tech check.
Yeah, I wasn't going to let you down. I was looking forward to it.
Well, I'm glad. I'm so glad that you came on, and I look forward to sitting down and talking to you again. And I'm definitely going to hold you to being a part of the committee of trying to help us organize what we need to do, what relics we need to try to have to even make an exhibit. What can we find, you know? Because I know that we can blow up pictures from the yearbook and do, you know how they do in those exhibits, those big whole walls of pictures.
Mm-hmm.
We can take some of the yearbook pictures out and do sections, and you know, definitely the yearbook. A lot of people still have copies of the yearbook. If we could find some of the trophies, but what I'm really interested in is in that Indy Taylor Black Panther logo and merchandise.
Well, I'm sure there's somebody. Yeah, well, all of those things we can talk about and make sure that we can progress. Thank you. Thank you for doing this. Love you.
Problem, my
Thanks for all the support.
Thank you. We love you. And we're so proud of you. We're Yazoo proud. Okay.
Take care.
All right. You have a good evening.
All right. You too.
Bye, Yazoo.